Atlanta Hawks get a very predictable Game 3 win, and I'm still not concerned about this series. I didn't see anything that changed my mind. I'm going to talk about it right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Brown, J-team. Step back, we gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And I'm here for you every day with a free, fresh podcast dropped directly to your device if you're a subscriber. So hit whatever your favorite podcasting app is. Get this show in there, subscribed, so you can download this show whenever it drops. Bonus podcast today. Don't normally do Friday night, Saturday podcasts, but hey, Celtics played a playoff game. Gonna make sure I'm giving you bonus content whenever they play in the playoffs. Watch a show on YouTube, subscribe there, hop into the conversation. I'm John Karalis. I used to play back in the day. Now I cover the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. Celtics fall to the Atlanta Hawks 130-122. And my big picture overall takeaway is the Hawks played about as perfect a game as the Atlanta Hawks are going to play. This game was absolutely the best, I think the best possible game the Hawks could play. And the Celtics still had a chance to win. It was 130-122 was the final score. They had a damn near perfect performance from the bench. Saddiq Bey was great. Jaylen Johnson scored, hit a couple of three-pointers. Bogdan Bogdanović was great. They got basically everything they allowed in the first two games. In this game, it kind of hurt the Celtics. Trae Young was finally good in a game. He had 32. DeJounte Murray was good again. He's been good. He had some really clutch late baskets. They really got basically great games from just about everybody. John Collins was the only one who didn't really pitch in much. And the Celtics still had a chance to tie with about a minute or so left in the game. They had their opportunity. They just couldn't break through. The entire fourth quarter, they were right there. And I was just like, it's a 5-point game. It's a 6-point game. It's a 3-point game. It's that entire fourth quarter. I was saying, just play a little bit of defense. Just grab a rebound. You'll be fine. But the Celtics couldn't grab a rebound. They couldn't stop the Hawks. And I think you go back to the second quarter where this game flipped from Boston being in control to the Hawks being in control, where the Celtics gave up a 41-30 quarter. And that was basically because the Hawks could not miss. They were 6 of 9 from 3, which the Celtics were also 6 of 9 from 3. But the Hawks were also 17 of 23 overall. So the Celtics made 3 shots, 3 2-pointers, where the Hawks made 11 2-pointers in that second quarter, on top of being super hot, 6 of 9 from 3. And that's where the game really flipped, and the Celtics could never quite get it back. They had times where they tied the game up. It was tied at 79. They made a couple of runs here and there. They played some decent defense in the fourth quarter. Marcus Smart, Derek White. But the Hawks just had it rolling. So my number one biggest takeaway from this game is I don't know that the Hawks can do this again. I really don't. I think this was, as I've been saying, if you've been listening to the podcast all along, I've been saying they were going to kind of run away with game one, and it got a little close at the end of game one. I thought game two was going to be tougher. I thought game three was going to be the one where the Hawks get super hot and the Celtics could never recover. It's kind of how I thought the game was going to go. Hawks get hot, can't miss. The Celtics can never just get that shot, can never quite get that one play. There were a few stretches there. Basically, in the fourth quarter, there were 2 or 3 possessions where the Hawks got multiple offensive rebounds. This has been a problem. This is something the Celtics have to figure out. But that one play, and this is the play where Marcus Smart fell and hurt his back, hopefully that's not going to be a problem. He said, we'll see how it feels after the game. Hopefully that's not a problem for Sunday night. But they had 4 shots, the Hawks did, in that possession. And that's the possession that ended with Trae Young hitting that stupid shot, that sidestep corner shot on Al Horford. I thought Al Horford defended that perfectly. But that's how this game went. The Celtics, in the beginning, in the second quarter, did not play their high level of defense, the level of defense that we'd seen in the first couple of games. They did play some pretty good defense in the fourth quarter. It's just by that time, the Hawks were making everything, and they hit some incredibly difficult shots. And the Celtics were missing open shots. The 3 that Jayson Tatum took was wide open. That was a shot that he would normally make. That's a shot that he makes more often than not. It was a catch and shoot, stepping into it in rhythm. So I think the Celtics, if any number of different things go a different way, then the Celtics win this game, even with this outlier performance that I keep talking about, outlier performance from the Hawks. If Jaylen Brown has a normal game, but I wrote in my preview on Boston Sports Journal, this could be a game where Jaylen plays kind of outside himself. And he did. He got into foul trouble early. He finished with 5 fouls. 7 of 15 shooting, but 0 of 4 from 3 and just 15 points. If Jaylen has a normal night, then then this game goes differently. Jayson Tatum had 29 points, 4 of 11 from 3, but he was 0 of 5 in the second half. That's if he has a normal second half, this goes differently. Al Horford had a good second half, but he was quiet in the first quarter. If we had a little bit more normal Al Horford, or Derek White, who was quiet, only had 11 points in this game, that would have made this game go a little bit differently. Robert Williams, who did, a couple of good things, but was mostly way too quiet. 4 points, no blocked shots, 1 steal, 5 rebounds in less than 20 minutes. Just a kind of way too quiet game for Robert Williams. A normal Robert Williams game changes the dynamic of this. So a lot of things went wrong for the Celtics and a lot of things went right for the Atlanta Hawks. But I will say, I think the Celtics getting hot from 3 early on hurt them. I'll talk about that in just a minute. First, today's show brought to you by eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is the perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits just right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage, and you'll look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game, and we saw that against the Hawks. When you shop on eBay Motors, with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items apply. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. I'll get that right. I'll figure it out. So I thought the Celtics, one of the worst things that happened to them in this game was getting super hot from 3 early. 15 of 25 from 3 in the first half, 60%. So 25 3-pointers and 22 pointers in the first half. Then in the second half, the 3-pointers stopped falling. They 6 of 23, 26%. But they still took 23 3-pointers and what's that? 24 2-pointers. So that's 47. Yeah, 24 2-pointers. That's basically an even split. But the Celtics, I think, settled or I don't want to say settled. They chose to take early 3-pointers when there were opportunities to drive. And for some reason in my head, that's different than settling. They had choices and they made the choice to take 3-pointers. There were a couple of plays where if Tatum especially was more patient, he had a couple of 3-pointers where there was one where he could have driven. There's one where he had Robert Williams turning the corner on a pick, just be a little bit more patient. And that pass would have been there, could have been an alley-oop, or it would have at least collapsed the defense and maybe got the Celtics something a little bit more open than the contested. It was a contested 3-pointer. So I just feel like the Celtics getting so hot early, they just felt like they could rely on that 3-pointer. And that hurt them in the second half. I thought Tatum, especially 0 for 5. Jaylen only took a couple. Smart was still kind of firing in the second half. He missed. He was 1 of 6. I think there were a couple times. Smart was just being left open. And that's another thing that they did, the Hawks did, which is an interesting little wrinkle. They put Clint Capella on Marcus Smart, and I think that they can say, hey, this kind of worked out well because he was 5 of 12 from 3. So, okay, 40-something%, but 1 of 6 in the second half. So 4 of 6 in the first half, hit or miss, right? Make miss league. They might live with that. They might say, okay, we're going to stick with that Capella on Marcus Smart and say, go ahead, take 12 more threes in game 4. Let's see how that goes. But even so, even if it goes the same way or a similar way, the Celtics have other options that they could have gone to that would have made that kind of not a factor. I thought that the rebounding is something that the Celtics have to focus on, and it's on both ends of the floor. They have to make sure that they're winning that battle. Not only did they get out rebounded, did they give up a ton of second chance points. Overall, second chance points 23-9. Boy, I gotta boost that. I gotta zoom in on that one. you see me on the YouTube. I'm like, I gotta get away from the microphone so I can look at this box score. 23-9 was the final points. I'm sorry, final second chance points. That's too much. The Celtics do a good job of offensive rebounding, and they did not keep any possessions alive, it felt like, in the second half. The second half was a lot of one and done for Boston and a lot of extended possessions for the Atlanta Hawks. So that's not something that can continue there. So if they just rebound a little bit better and be patient on offense, then they'll be fine. I think a lot of times the Hawks were able to get out and get comfortable in transition. Even if it doesn't go down as a transition point, they're able to go get their cross matches, and the Celtics defense is scrambling. When you rely on the 3 as much as the Celtics did in the second half, and when they're missing, those rebounds are long rebounds, and the Hawks can get out there and run and kind of be disruptive against those cross matches. When you're getting to the rim, the Celtics did a great job in the first 2 games of getting to the rim and getting points in the paint. And the Celtics in this game lost the points in the paint battle 54-40. Now, they had 10 in the first half, so they did a better job in the second half. But that second quarter was, that's where the disparity really came in. Got to win that points in the paint battle, because then you can set your defense. If you're getting the points in the paint, it's demoralizing. First of all, you can set your defense. You're getting layups. You're getting high percentage shots. Get back, and maybe the Hawks don't get quite as comfortable, and they stop hitting the shots that they were hitting. Also, the Celtics drop coverage. Trae Young was destroying that in the fourth quarter. I think the Celtics have to look at that, and they started switching, which was fine, but are they gonna switch all the way through now? That's going to be an interesting thing. The Celtics tried. I think what happened in the first couple of games is they tried the drop coverage, and they're like, let's see if we can do so in drop coverage. If you don't know what I'm talking about, they run pick and roll. The Hawks are the I think the top or one of the top on ball screening teams, and Al Horford is the big. Instead of coming up and switching most of the series so far, or coming up to the level of the screen where the screen is being set, he'll drop down, and the Celtics will chase over the top of the screen. So Trae Young's guy, Marcus Smart, Derek White, will chase over the top, kind of chase him into the middle of the lane, and the Celtics big is dropping because they don't want the alley-oop, and they want to be in a position to box out that crashing big. So Clint Capella sets the pick. He rolls. They're not going to give him the alley-oop. They're basically saying, go ahead, Trae Young, beat us with floaters. And he kind of did in the fourth quarter. And so the Celtics ended up switching and going to Al Horford, switching onto Trae Young, which I thought was actually pretty good. I thought Horford did a pretty decent job. It's just that Young hit some incredibly difficult shots. I want to see how that goes in game 4. I think if you're going to play that drop coverage, you still have to. I think Horford was getting too deep. I think it might have been a function of, God, we're getting crushed on the boards. I've got to worry more about this guy coming down the lane than the ball handler. And I think Horford was pulled out of position a lot late in the game, especially in that fourth quarter, especially when Trae Young started to really, really do some damage. But they got to be careful, because this is a team that, while under Quinn Snyder is taking a lot more 3-pointers, it's a team that loves to take mid-range. And under Nate McMillan, they were a big mid-range shooting team. They love to get into the middle of the floor. And if DeJounte Murray is hitting the shots that he's comfortable taking, if Trae Young is getting those shots, if guys are getting shots that they're comfortable taking and making, then that translates to the rest of their games. You can start moving out and hitting 3-pointers, which both of them did. When they're hitting, the rest of the team feels comfortable. It kind of is contagious. So a little bit of an adjustment there on just how deep Al Horford was playing. I think that's going to help, or mix in more switching and kind of vary it from time to time. Just don't stick to one thing. But ultimately, I just fall on the Celtics are still. I didn't see anything in this game that said, "Oh, Sadiq Bey got these shots because of a matchup thing." No, I didn't see that at all. I still think the Celtics own all of the matchups. I still think nothing has changed. The result of this game hasn't changed my mind as far as where the matchups are, who has the advantages, and all of that stuff. The Hawks didn't do anything significantly different. They just started making some shots. I think the Celtics played poorly. The Hawks played well. I don't think this is a function of the Celtics playing down to the Hawks. I really don't. I've seen the Celtics play down. You've seen the Celtics play down. I don't think this is what that was at all. Now, the Celtics might have been a little too comfortable, and I think maybe the Celtics didn't play. They obviously didn't play their best. But if we're saying playing down to the opponent is, let's just say, playing half speed, I don't think the Celtics were playing half speed. I think the Celtics were playing more like 80-85% speed. And the Hawks were playing at 105%. They were going over and above. It's funny, DeJounte Murray, after the game, said, when they played here in the regular season, they were getting a lot of cheers because all the Celtics fans in the crowd. And in this game, they were feeling the crowd. We actually had our Hawks crowd. This is a different environment, and it might have been, I don't want to say this is why. I'm not going to make this as an excuse, but you walk into the State Farm Arena and you see Celtics fans every time you go there. And then all of a sudden a playoff game, you're like, oh, wait a minute. This is actually a hostile crowd. Hawks fans show up in the playoffs, and they did in this game. So the atmosphere was a little bit different. It was different for the Hawks. I think the Hawks fed off of that. The role players fed off of that. So I think the Celtics, they took the punch. They actually did respond. It's just they couldn't finish it off. And if the few plays go differently, like instead of Marcus Smart falling, Clint Capella got his hand in and tipped the ball away and threw Marcus Smart off balance. If Smart comes down with that rebound and Trae Young doesn't get that three-pointer, the Celtics come down and score, the rest of that game changes. So I still think as poorly as the Celtics kind of played and executed, and as well as the Hawks played and executed, the Celtics are still so much better than the Hawks that their poor play still put them in a position to have a chance to steal this game. But hey, credit to the Hawks. They did a great job. They went out there. They didn't quit. They played their butts off. They got big performances, and they did what they're supposed to do. They won game 3. But again, I expected them to win game 3. I've said Celtics in 5 from the beginning, and I thought game 3 was the game they're going to lose. Now the Celtics have to follow the script. Come out Sunday night. The way I see it right now, come out Sunday night with something to prove. Go out there, big, strong execution in the first quarter. Go out and play well and put up, have a double-digit lead. I expect the Hawks to still play well at home. I still expect the Hawks role players to still play well at home, just not this well. And I expect it to be Celtics go up big, Hawks make a run, have it be a little bit tight, but the Celtics hold them off, and then the Celtics go home, play on Tuesday night, and roll them. Just be done with it. So that's my expectation. I think that's been the script all along. I'm not some sort of like basketball savant having called the first 3 games, because this is how these types of series go. Anybody that follows the NBA can probably follow the script as well. So I'm not like predicting things as some like, oh, I'm gonna take this bull take. No, I'm kind of telling you how these series go in general, and there's nothing that tells me that this should not follow the rest of the script. I'm sorry, the Hawks played well in this game. They did what they had to do, but this was their absolute best case scenario, and I don't think they can duplicate that. So we'll see. I'll be back Sunday after the game with another bonus podcast, so make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. Watch the show on YouTube, hop into the comments section, and share the podcast. Please tell everybody that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.